Thank you. So, empty room, but thanks for the few of you that are still here.
We're still on the internet. So
Well, I'm hoping somebody's watching, but at this point, you really need to think about this process because there were some wonderful voices and testimony, not necessarily my own right now, that needed to be heard. And you should probably go to those places to hear back if you're really genuinely wanting to hear back. Because at this point, I've missed after school time for my children, dinner, and bedtime. So I'm not really thrilled about the process of waiting for all these consultants to come in first. I'm a mother of 4 children in public schools. I know that my children's learning conditions are their teachers' working conditions. Jenny and I did not write this at the same time, by the way. This educational environment has become a pressure cooker for our kids and teachers because the legislature has decided that somehow educators weren't accountable enough. The learning and teaching process has been transformed into a test-taking, data-collecting nightmare to somehow prove accountability, at the root of which is an apparent deep distrust of teachers. We've had standardized tests for a long time, but it is what is at stake when the kids take the test now that has transformed their experience. In the past, standardized tests were just one aspect of an overall assessment of how our kids were doing. We trusted teachers to relay to us how our kids were learning. Now, it has become the end-all, be-all. If an 11-year-old doesn't score well on a test, it could affect his teacher's job, his school's letter grade, the label on his district, property taxes, and the community as a whole. This intensity of pressure comes down and lands right on the shoulders of my child. Who stands between my child and that weight of the world, buffering him and protecting him from his stress? His teacher. And for teachers whose students have special needs, live in poverty, or are learning English as a new language, the pressure to perform is tremendous. The consequence is a stigmatizing F on their little heads, or in 3rd grade, flunking. These policies are not brought about because parents clamored for them. Parents have not been begging for a better school than their neighbor's child. They've been begging for a great school, period. Parents want equity. Instead, we get competition, and competition involves winners and losers. No 6-year-old should be a loser when it comes to educational opportunity. These recent changes in policy are occurring all over the country, and this is also why the teacher shortage is not unique to Indiana. Bills that have transformed our kids' learning environment into a pressure cooker are all from the same source, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council. The goal of this organization is to create more competition in education and to privatize it. There's even an Indiana reform package of model legislation on the ALEC website, touting our reforms. Our governor has written the introduction to the ALEC report card on American education, and many members of our education committee are or were ALEC members. In fact, Representative Baining, our House Education Committee chair, was the ALEC chairperson for Indiana for several years. The A to F grading of schools, teachers' loss of voice in advocating for kids through the loss of collective bargaining, the draconian 3rd grade reading law, vouchers and charters creating a competition for funding, a developmentally inappropriate 90-minute block of literacy instruction. These are all ALEC laws. They were not backed by research of what are best practices in teaching, and they were not created by educators. Parents do not want this obsession with data. We want funding public schools such that all children have smaller class sizes for individual instruction. We want whole child accountability for our teachers and our schools, and that means research-backed education. Kids learn through play. Are they getting recess? Kids need to, follow their interests and do hands-on projects. Are they getting their broad curriculum when it's not on the test? Social studies or science. Many of these things are actually being squeezed out for test prep. Do our high schoolers have extracurricular activities that make them keep connected and wanting to go to school? We want our teachers to be paid as professionals that they are and to have more time for teaching and less for testing. You cannot reduce the time on testing if you don't reduce the stakes that are attached to them. We want a multi-measure evaluation of teaching and success. You cannot say that you respect teachers when every single thing they do is micromanaged by having to prove themselves with data. You cannot quantify the joy, the creativity, and the critical thinking. My children are not numbers. They're unique human beings who are learning and growing. I don't want my 11-year-old college and career ready because he is a child. I don't want him to have pressures to perform like an adult because he is not one. His teachers know how to give him that childhood. They know what is developmentally appropriate for him. And research, yes, data, shows that giving him these learning experiences will ensure that when the time comes, he will be ready to take his part in our society and our democracy. So you have to let teachers do their jobs, The best way to do this is to give them a voice, allow them to create the policy, not business peoples and legislators who know nothing about it, and certainly not ALEC backers who make money off of it. There's nothing more precious to me in this world than my children, and every day I entrust them to the care of their teachers. I care more about what they tell me regarding my kids' education than I do about any stinking ISTEP score. This is because they are the professionals, and I trust them to do their jobs. And if you truly support teachers, you will too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.